Welcome back to the third part of this evolution of management phase of classical era of management. In the previous video, we have learned about the contributions of the classical era which was related to the scientific management, and we have seen the notable contributions made by F.W. Taylor, the Gilbreths and Henry Gantt. In this video, we are going to focus on the other contributions that were made in the classical era that was related to the general management and was also related to the structure of an organization. The notable contributions were made by Henry Fayol and Max Weber. Let us see the concept of administrative system and a bureaucratic system in the classical era of thought. When scientific management was focusing on the productivity of individuals, the classical administrative approach concentrates on the total organization. The emphasis is on the development of the managerial principles rather than on the work methods. Well, Henry Fayol was a French industrialist. His background was he was born in Turkey and his father was lawyer. His father always wanted his son to become a lawyer, but Henry Fayol ditched this field of law. He, however, cleared the entrance examination at Harvard Law School, but he ran back to the organization system and where he started studying about the management as a discipline. He basically developed a theory of a collection of principles, rules, methods, the procedures which were tied to the general experience. From the contributions of scientific management, we have learned that how the activities at a shop level, we could say at the production level, could be performed, wherein the focus is how we can improve the efficiency of the output, how the worker can perform a task through a standardized way, how the scientific method can be identified in which a job can be performed in a faster method and a better method. But the concerns of a general management are different. When we talk about the office management, when we talk about the tasks related to the office, it is more general in nature, and this became the concern of Henry Fayol. If we talk about Henry Fayol, he used his experiences and observations as an executive and identified the elements and functions that composed a managerial job. During his experience as a kind of executive in an organization, he focused that the role of a manager is very challenging and the nature of task of a manager is very dynamic. He had to play a different kind of roles in different situations which are complex because they are dealing with people. He talked about the concept of a system in general management perspective that may apply to all kind of organizations and not just production organizations wherein only the focus was on the output or the methods and tools and techniques that were used to improve the efficiency of the worker. So he focused on the functions of managers, that the basic function of management must be to plan, to organize, to command, to coordinate and to control. The major contribution of Henry Fayol is in the name of the managerial functions, and he suggested the 14 principles of management which are very popularly known to his name, and it's to his credit that the pervasiveness of management led him to develop these principles which became his notable contribution, and he is popular because of these kinds of principles. So till date, the 14 principles of management are being used when we are learning the management theories and concepts, and they are also applicable even in the contemporary times. Let us see what are these popular 14 principles suggested by Fayol. If we could see, the first of the principle is division of work, which again focuses on specialization. He also advocated the principle of that every task has to be divided into simpler forms. The simplification of job is stressed even by Fayol. That was also being done by Taylor when he was suggesting his time study. So specialization is something that will increase the output, it will improve the efficiency. The simplification of job is something which is propagated by the contributions made by Henry Fayol as well. He also focused on dividing the job into small parts so that the job can improve the efficiency and bring specialization into the performer's performance. Next principle that he suggests is authority, that managers must be able to give orders and authority gives them this right. Now, if a manager is instructing the subordinates and the subordinates are not abiding his instructions, then there is no concept of management at all in an organization. So management without authority makes no sense. This was stressed by Henry Fayol, that every manager must be has certain power in his hand, certain authority, so that whatever he is instructing and delegating, there has to be certain conviction to that. Thus authority is something we could say as the basis which gives them rights to the managers to delegate the task and demand certain kind of subordination. Discipline. Now this is, we could say, complementary, that employees must obey and respect the rules which govern the organization. If there is no obeying of the rules, if there is no subordination, if there is no acceptance of the orders coming from the authority, there is no concept of functioning of an organization. The hierarchy will make no sense. And this is what been stressed in this another principle suggested by Fayol, that managers must have the authority to give instructions, while there also has to be discipline wherein employees must obey their managers and whatever directions are being received. So if there is no discipline in an organization, the concept of system and organization cannot be established in its very essence. Unity of command, it's a very important contribution principle, which he says that every individual must receive orders from one boss only. Now this concept of unity of command is also helpful in also avoiding ambiguity. For example, if two people start giving instructions, the two people will be giving the similar instruction in a different manner, and the one who is performing will obviously going to be confused and did not able to understand that whom to follow, whom to listen, and to decide whether who is more speaking with conviction. So it is better that the direction of instruction is also coming from one direction. So there has to be unity of command. That means there has to be one boss, even if there are more than one subordinate, that is acceptable, but the boss has to be one. The instructions should come from a unified direction. And of course, unity of direction, the fifth principle, is in line with the unity of command, wherein the organization should have a single plan of action to guide managers and workers. Unity of command speaks about coming from one boss, and unity of direction is also talking about going into the single direction. The goals has to go into a unified direction in which there are no different distractions, otherwise the performance is going to be affected. The sixth principle suggested by Fayol is the subordination of individual interest to general interest. It is very important for organizations to understand that whosoever people are contributing their efforts, they are contributing their efforts to address their individual goals, but however their goals have to be put behind and beneath the organizational goals. The major focus should be on the achievement of the goals, and the organizational goal has to be superseded by the individual interest. The general interest has to be higher. The interest of any one employee or any one group of employee should not be higher than the ultimate organizational goal, otherwise it will affect the performance, and it will also affect the morale of the team members also. The people will be focusing on their own self-interest, that will affect the groups and the team's performance. So there has to be the general interest higher as compared to the individual interest. Remuneration is also stressed by Fayol as one of the important principles, that whatever wages and remunerations are being given to people, they has to be fair. He also advocated the dimension of identifying the right amount and the fair amount of wages to be given to workers without exploiting them and without misutilizing their efforts and their situation in an organization. So it's like the workers must be paid fair wages for their workers. So it's like workers must be paid fair wages for their services, and remuneration is a very important factor that keeps the worker making effort into the process of achieving the goals of the organization. Centralization is another term referred to the degree to which the subordinates are involved in decision making. It also highlights the importance of the philosophy of top management. that how much decision making power is rested with the top management. The more centralized an organization is, the more decision making power is rested with the top management. And the concept of decentralization is wherein the powers are also delegated. So the larger the organization is, the centralization is more harmful, we could say, because it will delay in decision making, because the managers will have less of the powers with them, and this will affect their daily decision and operative decision making also. It will also affect the authority of managers also. So the higher centralization in larger organizations is somewhat, we could say, must be avoided, because centralization is restricting the power to some center, and that center is obviously top. So it is basically about the degree of the delegation of power and some kind of decision making abilities from top to bottom. The more centralized organization is, the more power will be restricted to the top, and the more decentralized an organization is, the more powers will be delegated to the lower level managers, dependent upon their situation in a hierarchy and position in a hierarchy. Scalar chain is something that defines the line of authority from top to lowest. It's like everybody in an organization must be aware of the hierarchy, who is whose boss, and who is the the top level people, who are the middle level managers, who are the lower level managers. This hierarchy must be known to people working in an organization, because it is very essential to respond to the authority, to the discipline, to the unity of command, unity of direction. All the principles we could see is interrelated and talking about the general interest of the organization, irrespective of any individual party's interest. It's not only talking about the management's interest, it is not only focused on the employer's interest, but it is basically talking about a general interest in which an organization can be successfully working and operating. So scalar chain is basically the clarity of the line of authority from top to bottom, which is known to all people in an organization for the purpose of subordination, for the purpose of unity of direction, for the purpose of understanding the hierarchy in an organization. Order is something which we could say a philosophy of orderliness, that every resource, every person is in order. That means a right time and right place for everything. There has to be everything and everyone on the right place in an order, and that is very essential for any smooth functioning of any activity. So basically it is not just the materials, it is also the people, that they should be in the right place at the right time, so that the right things can take place in the right order. Equity talks about a fair treatment to people should be given to subordinates. A fair, indiscriminatory and just treatment must be given to the employees in an organization, because it's not only about the performance, it is also about how the treatment is to be given to people, and the focus is more on the equity treatment, wherein people must be given the fair and just treatment, because it is essential for the labor relations as well. The management must be harmonious to their employees, so that they can respect them, they can give them equal opportunity. They will also give them certain kind of space wherein they are kind, benevolent. Their behavior also defines a lot about at how the organization relationship are going to be in the present and the future, and it is very essential for the success of an organization. So it is not only focusing on just how the work could be performed, but also that what kind of environment and ecosystem could be developed so that the people can work conveniently and comfortably. Stability of tenure. Now, of course, this is a very important aspect which is concerning employees, which is related to job security. If they feel that their job will be gone, if they feel that they will be out of the job, this will keep affecting their performance, and this will keep a kind of a fear in their mind. So job stability is also something which is highlighted as important by Fayol, that if the management should provide a kind of a planning and ensure that replacements are available to fill the vacancies, it is very important for the people to provide a kind of stability for their services. So the security at work is also very important. So if the people are performing well, their performance is well received in an organization and appreciated and well remunerated, and kind of a good system is established in an organization, so the management is successfully doing their planning work and ensuring that if there are any kind of vacancies that may happen, will be filled within the time. So they are able to provide this kind of security to their employees, and if the management is successful in doing so, it is going to be very essential for the functioning of a management as well. So it is not just a concern of people that they are having a threat of job, they will lose the job, but it is also a very big problem for the organizations also to manage the turnover or to manage the kind of unfilled vacancies. So it's doing the right kind of demand and supply of people, that is also very essential for the smooth functioning of organization. Initiative principle is something that focuses a lot about how the employees are perceiving the organizational behavior towards them. It is about where employees feel welcomed and they are able to take certain initiatives and given some opportunities wherein they can demonstrate their level of efforts. It's basically the people must be supported, the employees in an organization must be supported by management in a manner in which they will take more initiative to express their opinions and to come forward and contribute their efforts. Even if they have to go for an extra mile, they will show and express their efforts. They participate in decision making and meetings and suggest different suggestions at the time of decision making. So this can only happen when an environment of this comfort will be provided by the management. So initiativeness is also appreciated, that those people who take initiative and make an extra effort is also something which is important. Not just a management responsibility to provide you a system of opportunity, but also employees' initiativeness is appreciated and is promoted by Henry Fayol. So basically he tries to emphasize on the element that employees must take initiative to participate into management activities and decision making, and suggesting certain kind of problem solving techniques, so that a better decision making could be made, a kind of a better performance and efforts could be appreciated well in time. Esprit de corps basically talk about the team spirit. People in an organization work together. Nobody works in isolation. Even an organization does not exist in vacuum. So Esprit de corps talk about the philosophy of developing the positive, trustful and constructive relationship between the team members, so that the harmony and the cooperation in an organization will be injected and the unity in an organization can be developed, and this is very important for a smooth functioning of an organization. So the Fayol's principle are a strong contribution which are still relevant in the current times. However, there are few principles that may be flexibly understand. However, there are principles and their situation context in the current time that has to be understood, that how much power distribution, how much authority, how much decentralization and centralization in an organization exists. It is also dependent upon the nature of organization, the type of organization, how many people are working in an organization, what nature of activities are going on in an organization. But these 14 principles represent a general concept of management, that how the general activities in an organization which are related to the routine activities and not just a factory setting, that how the efficiency and effectiveness can be improved within the general offices of any organization. And since general offices are general to all kinds of organizations and not just manufacturing and production factory systems or industries, thus this kind of principle has more application to understand the concept of management, because it focuses on the basic management function which are the concepts of planning, organizing, controlling and leading the resources to the right direction in the purpose of attaining the goals. The third major contribution that had happened in the classical era of management is bureaucratic management. The contribution were made by Max Weber, who was born in 1864 to 1920. He was a German sociologist. He studied organizations through a structural perspective. In his early contributions, he developed a theory of authority and structures that describe the relationship between different authorities in an organization, and he also suggested an idea of what an ideal organization is. The basic philosophy behind this ideal type of organization is derived through the concepts of authority of different kinds. He recognized that this ideal bureaucracy actually existed in dreams only, it is not a real thing, and instead he thought that the basis of theorizing that how work could be done in a large group could be done through certain kind of a structuring, and that is why his contribution became the focal of the structural design for many of the large organizations today. So we could say that the bureaucracy management or the thought of bureaucracy suggested by Max Weber became the focal point to understand that how a large organization can be designed and can work in a direction of achieving the goals and objectives of an organization. And in this concept, he stressed a lot upon the concept of authority. Let us understand more about the bureaucracy management. Weber postulates three types of legitimate authority. Now, he identified authority in three types, one of which is the rational legal authority. Now, rational legal authority is something that Weber defined as the kind of authority which is in which the subordinates owed obedience to the legally established hierarchy. That means any authority which is by virtue of its position in an organization, the people obey. For example, if there is a boss in an organization, obviously the employees are going to follow what the boss is saying, follow what the boss is, pressing upon the rules and regulations in an organization, how his philosophy of work is, and obviously the subordinates are going to follow. So basically, because he owes that position, he is in that position, and that is why he possesses certain kind of subordination. So rational legal authority is by virtue of the position in an organization, and the obedience of the subordinates are because of that legally established hierarchy in an organization. The other type of authority he identified is because of the traditional authority. Now, in this, the obedience to the person who is on the authoritative position is sanctioned because he belongs to a particular class. Let us say, let us assume that if it is a member of a royal family, for example, he is somebody who is traditionally getting that authority because he is coming from that particular family. So, the family member will become the next authority, next king, next queen, coming from the because of being a member of that family. So Weber considers that traditional authority overlooks the competence of the leader. However, it is because of some traditional possessiveness of the sanctioned position. The third kind of authority the Weber focuses on is the charismatic authority, which is being basically based on the personality a person possesses. It is the obedience owed to the personal trust and belief in the leader's power. When the people are in awe of the other person's personality, the way in which he behaves, the way in which his beliefs are, the way the person led with his virtues, it's basically something that draws obedience. So the authority is identified in three different manner by Weber, in which either it can be because of the virtue of position that he occupies in an organization, or by virtue of a kind of a tradition that the person gets the position, or by because of the personality a person owes that the obedience comes. In whatsoever manner, the form of authority, any authority or some form of authority is the corner of any organization. So basically, he identified authority as a very important contribution in an organizational context. However, Weber considers that the rational legal authority is the most important authority. But charismatic authority is important, but is emotional in nature and also irrational. So the rationality is actually related with the legal authority by virtue of the position a person occupies in an organization, and not also the traditional one which overlooks the competence of the leader, because it is because of the virtue of the tradition and not any competence that the person has gained that position. So any kind of authority, but authority is important basis to define the concept of a structure, which is suggested by Max Weber. Let us understand some of the characteristics which the Weber identified as the characteristics of any ideal organization. If we look at one of the important characteristic of an ideal organization is division of labor. By division of labor, we simply understand that it is about breaking the job into simple parts. And these simple parts is not only essential for understanding the jobs in an organization, that how the task can be divided into small parts, but it further helps in an organization structure to design structures and departments also. For example, by division of labor, we will understand how the job can be broken into small parts. But it also leads to specialization that will help in combining those similar nature of tasks and define them in terms of certain departments or area of operations. So for an organization structure, division of labor is important to understand specialization, and on the basis of specialization, departmentalization can be done. This is a very important element to understand from the viewpoint of an organization. The other kind of element which is very essential suggested by Weber is the authority that we have just understood. That authority can be of any type. It can be by virtue of the position, it can be by virtue of a tradition, it can be by virtue of a personality, but there are certain authorities which are essential for an organization to exist. Whatever positions in an organizational hierarchy are designed, it defines a clear chain of command, and that chain of command is important for obedience. This command is important for order. This command is essential for discipline. So in an organization, if a hierarchy is established, that hierarchy demands subordination, that hierarchy demands discipline, that hierarchy demands an order. The third element that Weber suggested is the formal selection, that whatever people are selected in an organization must be based upon certain criteria and specification of certain skills. It is like in every organization there are different hierarchies, there are different positions, there are different levels. Every level has got its own nature of task and operations to perform, and to perform that job there has to be a basis of selecting people. That means again he is stressing again on the logical method of selecting people to perform a task and a role. So it's like it's highlighting the concept of job design, wherein the job and the task that has to be performed has to be specified along with the skills which are important to perform that job, or any kind of prerequisites which are required to perform the job. So formal selection is also a very ideal characteristic of any organization structure. The structure can be different, the structure can be functional, it can be divisional, it can be virtual and modular. However, whatever the nature of structure is, but the selection of people has to be done in a formal manner, so that there will be a scientific method to select people and to put them, the right people, on the right job. Another characteristic that the Weber suggested is the formal rules and regulations, wherein there has to be certain kind of rules and regulations. No system can be established if there are no foundations to it, and the foundations could be in terms of certain philosophies, certain values, certain norms, certain rules. So if we are talking about any organization of whatever structure, the organization cannot function if there are no written form of rules and regulations and policies and procedures, because this is what a system works through. So there has to be certain formal rules and regulations which has to be communicated to each member of the organization, new or old, founder, or we could say a supplier or any other stakeholder. They must understand what the organization stands for. So it is the rules and regulations of an organization is the ideal characteristic of any system, and that system is known through its formal procedures through which it functions. We could also understand that these are the manuals of organizations in which the organization will be functioning. Another, another characteristic of organization is the impersonality. When we talk about impersonality, it is basically about the application of all the rules and regulations across all the levels and all the hierarchies, irrespective of their position in an organization. So a rule is a rule for a CEO as well, and a rule is a rule for a person working at the non-managerial level as well. So it is like no matter at what level you are positioned in an organization, your organizational rules are impersonal, irrespective of the position and the hierarchy and the power that you possess in an organization, because that will be for the purpose of establishing a system, and a system cannot establish if it has its different application to different people. So a very important characteristic of organization is the impersonality, that it applies to everybody equally, irrespective of their position. And of course, career orientation. We consider managers as career professionals and not the owners of the unit. So when we talk about the managerial positions, managers are the people who are responsible and in charge of taking care of the activities in an organization. However, they are not the owners of the organization. And this talks about the career persuasion. So it's very important to understand that the people who are working together must incorporate their efforts, their skills, their knowledge and abilities together for the purpose of moving forward in their careers and developing themselves as better performers in their jobs, so that the organizational purposes can be attained, and they are not the owners of the position that they occupy in an organization, so they can take it for granted. That should not be the case. The people in an organization, the managers in an organization, they are all career professions and they must act professionally, and they always make effort to improve their services, improve their performances by learning new skills, by learning new standards, and to incorporate them into the vision and mission and objectives of an organization, and not to consider them as their personal property, whatever they own in the name of the rights and powers of an organization. So every organization has certain characteristics. Here we could see 6 characteristics suggested by Weber's as the characteristics of an ideal organization. So it is like no matter what type of organization it is, whether it is a profit organization or a non-profit organization, but every organization must be comprising these characteristics to make it an essential system of work. Let us look at some advantages of bureaucracy. We could say that the delegation of authority in an organization will take place. People will be given a task according to their competence. So in every bureaucratic organization, it will be very clear idea to the managers also and to the performers also that what kind of competence is expected from them. There will be obviously rules and regulations that will make it as a bureaucratic system. There will be a logical way in which people will be behaving, because it will be working according to the rules, regulations, expectations. So there will be a rationality which is the basis of any organizational system, that everything will be performed as per the rational decision making. There will be laws, there will be rules, there will be regulations. So it's all about the rational decision making and not the emotions of the people. It will not be a rational behavior of people that they will be talking about emotionally and not rationally. So it is like when we are talking about subordination to the order and authority of managers, the managers must also be logical in their approaches and not just talking about random things to their people to subordinate them. So rationality is a very essential basis of any organization, because we are talking about the hierarchy in an organization. Predictability, of course, we could say that the bureaucratic system is more prescriptive in nature. So we could predict the behavior of people because we are already establishing certain rules and regulations. So when we have already the rules and regulations, it is more prescriptive in nature, which we could say is also a kind of a restriction of bureaucratic system, but it is more predictable. We can assume that how the people in post office are going to be behave, because their jobs are of the similar nature because of the division of labor and specialization. So the way in which all post offices across different cities and different states, we could see the functioning will be somewhat similar because the nature of operations is similar. So bureaucratic management is quite predictable in nature because the rules, regulations to perform are somewhat similar and they dictate a manner in which the organizations will function. Efficiency will obviously be there because when we are talking about a manual system, that how the organizations will be operated, when we are giving them a description of the nature of jobs and how the jobs will be performed and how the measures of the job and standards of the job performance are, the efficiency will definitely will rise because of the specialization. When you do the repetitive task and you perform it again and again, the specialization will obviously be the outcome of that process, and that is what is the essence of a bureaucratic organization. And of course, when we are talking about that it is impersonal in nature, the rules, laws, this kind of impersonality feature will obviously lead to some kind of impartiality because it is applicable to all level of employees, all level of managers, top to bottom. The rules, regulations are same for all people, and that is why the concept of impartiality can be easily practiced in a bureaucratic system. So there are certain advantages to understand what bureaucratic systems are all about. However, the limitations are that they are more prescriptive in nature and they might not be very suitable for flexible and dynamic environments. However, to establish system and to respond to certain kind of authority, a little system, a little bureaucracy is very, very important. When we talk about Weber's bureaucracy in a contemporary scenario, it is similar to scientific management in ideology because we are talking about identifying the right way to work. So the scientific management is also talking about identifying the scientific method of selecting people, identifying the scientific method of the standard of work performance. So this is also similar to the bureaucratic approach of Weber, which is more prescriptive in terms of suggesting that how an organization should function. A Weber idea is less practical than Taylor because it is talking about some ideal type of authority which is very we could say impractical in especially in the times of the contemporary scenarios which are more unpredictable. The environmental conditions are changing, the economic conditions are in big turmoil. We could say the external environment is unpredictable and there are so many other unprecedented events that are happening around in the contemporary organizations. So we could say the ideal type of authority is somewhat impractical. However, the postulate of authority is somewhat practical as well. There has to be certain authority in an organization of whatever kind of authority it could be, whether traditional, whether rational, or whether based on personality. But whenever the people follow somebody, whenever the people are inspired by someone's opinion, by someone's thought and philosophy, we actually refer to that authority element, because there is that authority in that essence of activity that the people will follow, that the people will replicate, that the people will allow things to happen. So the idea is less practical as compared to Taylor, but we could say that some element of authority is also real. So it is somewhere in the flux between the ideal authority and the real authority in an organization. So many managers feel that a bureaucratic structure hinders creativity in an organization because it is more rigid in terms of rules and regulations, and it limits the capability to respond quickly to dynamic environment. However, flexible organizations of the creative professionals, for example, Microsoft or General Electric, they also acknowledge that some bureaucratic systems or mechanisms are important to ensure that the resources are efficiently and effectively used. So we could say that to ensure the uniformity in operations, bureaucracy is helpful. However, it affects the flexibility in the dynamic environment because they are more rigid in nature, but a little element of bureaucracy will be helpful to successfully survive in the current environment. So these are the three notable contributions that we have learned in the classical era of management. One was the scientific management, in which the focus was on rationality and efficiency. The administrative management focuses on the general management rather than the functioning at the shop floor level of employees, wherein the focus was only on productivity. The administrative theory and management talks about the general management functioning of an organization. While if we look at the bureaucratic management contribution of Weber, talks about authority in an organization and how the hierarchy and the rules and regulations of an organization establishes a way of functioning, but this functioning can be questionable in times of the dynamic environment, and how this essence and the element of authority has to be managed in the times, because it is essential to have a system of authority, and certain kind of authority is very important even in a dynamic environment, but the kind of a ratio and the kind of a dynamics of this authority structure, rigidity and flexibility in an organization defines the challenges for the new age managers. And this is what we could see, that the changing time has brought different challenges and different ways to look at things in a new perspective. However, the notable contributions of the classical era of management are still relevant and are still useful for the organizations and managers to decide and define new ways to work through the older logics and the older philosophies. So, past is very important to see a coherent picture of the future, and that is why we are reflecting on the historical evolution of management. Thank you.